Good morning, it's D here, and we're back with our weekly update for news within the World of Warcraft community. This week we've got everything coming from Wowhead. We'll start off with just a PSA for everyone. No one really knows how gear is going to look in Season 1, so there's a big controversy about if you should spin your spark that you're able to receive this week of week 1 of the expansion, or if you should hold off until season 1. I would go ahead and wait until season 1. There's been a lot of gear changes and tuning within the last month or so, since the beta was coming to an end and the expansion's coming out. So I would just go ahead and sit on the Spark. If you do want to look at what your class is currently being suggested to build, you can come onto Wellhead, go to your class page, and go to your items. So, uh, as an example, for Guardian Druid classes, Guardian Druid, it takes you to this guide navigation, Bis gear, and then you can come all the way down to crafted gear. And this will show you what's currently being seen as the best gear to craft, as well as your embellishments. But remember, this is likely to change within the next couple of weeks, so go ahead and hold off until at least that first week that raid comes out, and likely you'll even want to wait until uh, mythic raid and keys come out to get that last bit of tuning in. Other than that, we've had some class tuning that's going to be incoming in this coming reset, which is going to be September the 3rd. Um, to give a little disclaimer first, I have played most of the specs within the game to a decent level. Um, with the addition of hero talents now, I'm only fully knowledgeable of only probably 6 or 7 specs, but still know generally what's going on with most of them. So let's go through these patch notes. So first up, we've got Death Knight with the frost changes. Frost strike damage reduced by 6%, obliterate reduced by 6%, icy death torrent damage reduced 10%, glacial advanced damage reduced by 10%. So first of all, most of that doesn't apply to PvP, but overall that's just a big nerf to them. Um, I think obliterate's still one of their bigger like spender filler spells that does most of their damage. So this is looking like a pretty big nerf. I have noticed that the Frost DKs were a little bit overpowered in our heroic spams, but I'm not sure if this was needed. Alright, moving on to Druid. Balanced Druid or Moonkins. Umbral Intensity increases the damage of Wrath by 20 to 40%, was 25 to 50%, and Starfire by 15 to 30 was 50%. So it looks like, okay, 2-point node. Man, that's pretty crazy when balance is already doing so poorly. They're going to nerf something. Hopefully the rest of these make up for that. Star Surge damage increased by 12%. Starfall damage increased by 20%. Harmony of the Heavens increases. Eclipse power by 2% per proc. Max was 6%, was 1% per proc. Max of 5. Okay, so took away your some of the power from the builders and put more power into the spenders, and then made Harmony of the Heavens stack faster as well as a little bit more. I mean, hopefully that's overall a buff. Um, it should be at least in AoE with the Starfall's damage being 20% buffed on everything. I'm not so sure about Star Surge's damage increase, if that's enough. but hopefully that'll put them in a little bit of a better place because I know right now balance is in an awful place tuning wise. Alright, and Feral. Blood Talons and Lion Strength now also increase the damage of Rampant Ferocity. That's great. It's always a nice little buff. I'll be playing Feral in raids, so anything that makes them a little bit better is always great for me. Alright, Evoker. This is one of them that one of the people in my key group plays Devastation, so I know a little bit more about them. Alright, so Devastation damage of all spells and abilities increased by 6%. Firestorm damage increased by 20%. Firestorm duration reduced to 10 seconds was 12 seconds. Okay, so overall, huge buff. 6% overall, and then 20% to Firestorm, as well as uh, Firestorm just lasts a little bit less, but it doesn't say it does less damage, so hopefully it does that increased damage in a shorter amount of time. Overall, I don't think Dev Evokers are going to be real excited about this because I don't know many of them that actually like Firestorm and keys since we move around so much. Um, so 6% is obviously great, but the Firestorm probably won't be too impactful. Alright, Flame Shaper engulf damage increased by 30%. That's a nice little buff because not many devs are playing Flame Shaper. Um, Alright, Hunter, Pack Leader. Vicious Hunt damage increased by 10% for BM. Vicious Hunt damage decreased by 10% for Survival. Let's see what their developer note is. When Vicious Hunt's damage reaches a certain point, it can cause Kill Command to dominate Survival's rotation. This adjustment and subsequent compensation are meant to ensure pack leaders, survival hunters are utilizing the other tools at their disposal. I play with a survival and he hadn't complained about this, so I'm not sure how, relevant it was at this point of the game, but hopefully that'll end up being a good change. Alright, Hallow Pack crit strike damage bonus increased to 5% for BM was 3. And same thing was changed to 11% for survival was 7, so a nice little buff for both of them. Furious Assault damage bonus increased to 60% for survival was 30, so doubled that. Cull the Herd damage over time increased to 60% for survival was 30, so overall it looks like a decent buff for survival. Hopefully get to not press Vicious Hunt, or not press Vicious Hunt, but not press Kill Command so much and still be able to do the damage that it was doing. Yeah, I mean, overall, looks like a good change. Alright, mages. This is one of them that I don't know too much about the hero talents. But for fire, we've got a few damage increases. Living Bomb by 30%, Pyroblast by 5%, Flame Strike by 10%. So I know that fire was looking to be like the worst spec out of mages, so hopefully that brings them up to a more even area. Frost Fire Bolt damage increased by 25% for fire. Okay. Sun Fury Burden of Power can no longer be double dipped by spell queuing. Arcane Phoenix damage dealt reduced by 10% for Arcane. Arcane Soul Base duration reduced to 2 seconds was 3. Okay, so buffs for Fire and Frostfire and then nerfs for Sun Fury. I know Arcane is definitely the best right now, so that makes sense. Alright, Rit Paladin. Mastery High Lord's Judgment reduced by 10%. For example, at level 80, 180 mastery rating now gains 1.35%. Mastery was 1.5. Okay, a little bit of a nerf. All holy spell damage increased by 5%, but then a straight up buff right after that. So probably just about even, if not a little bit higher, and to the buff range for this. Because all holy spell damage, that'll include your, at least for keys, it'll buff your Divine Storm, which is your AoE spender a lot, so it should be an overall buff. Let's see here. Disc Priest. This is also one that I have in my key group, so I know a little bit more about them. Oracle Discipline Priest. Preventative measures now increases power word shield absorption by 40%, was 25%. Does not apply to PvP. I know Oracle for Disc is pretty much garbage right now. No one's taking it. They're taking the Void Weaver. So I doubt this singular change will be enough to move Disc from Void Weaver to Oracle. Alright, Atonement Healing increased by 100% outside of raid was 70%. Awesome. That really needed to happen. Disc was looking bad. Fixed an issue where Atonement critical healing was not increased by correct amount outside of raid. Bug fix, always good. Shadow Word Pain and Purge the Wicked, which replaces Shadow Word Pain. Damage increased by 20%. Great. That's basically passive healing. And then Shadow Priest, Void Weaver, Shadow Priest, Void Blast damage increased by 20%. Always nice buff. Alright, Shaman, Elemental Mastery. Elemental overloads bonus to all elemental and physical damage increased by 35%. And all damage reduced by 6%. Okay. At first I was wondering why they were buffing them, because elementals were already so far ahead of other DPS. But all damage reduced by 6% makes it probably around a net even, with a little bit of a nerf. Alright, Stormbringer for specifically Elemental. Tempest now deals 65% of its damage to enemies near its primary target, was 50. And Tempest now deals reduced damage beyond 5 targets. Okay, so no uncapped AoE. Alright, Enhancement. All damage reduced by 4%. Elemental Blast damage increased by 12%. Stormbringer. Tempest now deals... It's the same update as Elemental. Nerf from 65% to 50%. And AoE capped. Totemic gets the change of Tremor damage increased by 10%. Searing Volley damage increased by 80%. Okay. So it looks like Enhance has maybe overall Stormbringer definitely nerfed. Totemic was buffed. So maybe Totemic's going to see some play now, because I know Stormbringer was by far the strongest of what was happening there. Alright, Warlock, Destro, all ability damage increased by 5%. That's good for them. I know they were falling a little bit behind in AoE. Alright, and nothing else down here to go over. So now we can talk about Blizzard's Warbound until equipped gear drops. So, basically, we're just going to read through this real quick. Deep in the dungeons, delves, and zones of Khazalgar, flexible new Warbound until equipped or WUE gear awaits. This is a powerful tool that you can use to prepare the other characters in your warband to get back into the fight. Basically, they're the same as bind on equip BOE but only your own tunes can equip them. So if you're gearing your main and you get a WUE piece, then you can send it to an alt that it fits, so that you're just a little bit ahead when you start. Alright, so let's go down to this part of where WUE gear comes from. Many rare creatures identified with the silver star on your minimap can drop WUE gear when defeated. So that's out in the open world, which is where we're mainly going to be getting it in these first couple of weeks of the expansion. Alright, your first Lamplighter supply satchel each week, earned from spreading the light event in Hollowfall, always contains a piece of Adventurer 1 WUE gear. Okay, so that's just a weekly event that's constantly happening in Hollowfall. That's cool. But the most important source is every raid, dungeon, and delve. In addition to the regular gear rolls, the War Within adds a bonus roll to every raid boss, every final dungeon boss, and every bountiful chest and a delve to give you a piece of WUE gear in addition to any other. This bonus roll is independent of the normal roll, which means you could get neither one or even both, meaning WUE and a regular piece. Getting that WUE gear isn't instead of anything, it's just a bonus to what you can get. And this isn't a huge chance because I know I've spammed, I don't know, probably somewhere between 50 to 100 dungeons, and I've only gotten like 4 pieces of gear, WUE gear. So, I mean, it's not a huge chance, but if you're going to be spamming those dungeons anyway, then it is a good little head start to your next alt. If you get a WUE piece of gear from a raid boss, it will always be the gear from that boss's loot table. In Raid Finder, this WUE gear will drop as Ret 1. Normal, this WUE gear will drop on the vet track with the same starting value as the bind on pickup champion pieces. So if a bind on pickup piece drops as champion 3, the WUE gear should be vet 3. Alright, in heroic, the rules are the same as normal, except the WUE gear will be, sorry, totally lost my place. Drops as champ 3, vet 3, and heroic the rules are the same as normal except the WUE gear is on champion track to match the normal drops of hero track. And in mythic it'll always drop on champion 4, so it looks like they don't want to give you any heroic gear, which can slow down gearing for the higher we'll say like the higher tiered players. And here's just a little example of what it was talking about. So it was saying that in normal it'll be vet versus champion. So it'll be, if it was going to drop this, let's say 603 champ 3 right here, it would instead drop the WUE piece at 590. So that is a a decent difference, but it could give you a little bit of a head start. Alright. And then if you get a piece of gear from the final boss of a dungeon, it will be gear from any boss in that dungeon. Miss your chance to get the piece that you wanted from the first boss, stick around and try to get a WUE version from the end boss. So that's good for us now as we're spamming heroics, because that means that you could get, I mean, a lower item level of, the staff from the first boss in Rookery or the trinket in Arakara, but it will be lower eye level, so it's not guaranteed that you'll actually want that, at least for your main. Alright, if you get a WUE piece of gear from a heavy trunk in a delve, it would be any gear you could otherwise have gotten from that delve. Pretty simple. Alright, and with that, that brings us to the end of this. The updates for this week that I thought were worth talking about. If there was anything that I missed that you'd like to see in future videos, let me know. If there's anything that I missed that we should know now, put it down in a comment below, and just let me know what you think about this. Like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.